Now this is the green eyeshadow palette of my dreams, and this is the Absinthe palette on the brand new BH Cosmetics Halloween collection. And I mean, just look at that. Like, oh, like I am just so excited for this. I saw it on Ulta's website and I was like, girl, I need that palette. Because I mean, it has like these minty shades in here. We have like lime greens and like these smoky, more like almost like seafoam greens mixed in. Like, this is just a really cool color story. Like, I could not pass up this palette, and also BH Cosmetics is super affordable. But I mean, even look at this like lime green shimmer right here. This one's called Elixir. I mean, I just need this one on my eyes. So I just pried my eyes off camera, but I will say I got a little excited about this palette, saw it. I was like, dang, that's really pretty. I didn't really like look at it super close, if you know what I mean. But the first row right here, the top row, is all matte shades, and then the rest, the other 6 shades in here, are shimmers. So this is a mostly shimmer palette, which, I mean, if you like shimmers, you're probably gonna really like, but I know a lot of people like a good mix of both, so I'm actually surprised that with a 9 pan that they did so many shimmers in here. And also, another thing to note is that this row right here, the middle row, some of these shimmers look very, very similar. Like, I feel like I wouldn't need all of them in this palette. But again, we're going to be trying out a lot of the shades in here. But the first shade I do want to go in with is this lime green right here. And this one's called Trippy. I really do like BH Cosmetics shimmer formula though, so I'm not mad about there being so many shimmers in here. And one thing I will note though is that the shade is a little bit on the powdery side. Like, it is kind of giving me a lot of kickback, to say the least. But I'm just going to be taking it on this Anastasia A25 blending brush. Ooh, 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 that is like a neon green. Wow, that is so pigmented right away. And again, I'm just going to be blending it upwards towards my brow. And I'm going to be bringing it out fairly far too. Like, we're just going to be like really like smoking it out. So I'm going to go in with a second layer and let's see how this shade builds up. Because again, a lot of times like neon greens and like just greens in this like shade range in general, they can be like really powdery and have a hard time adhering to an eye base. But this one so far is applying really, really nice. I definitely say though, if you want to look like it does in the pan, you're probably going to have to do 2 layers. Like, don't get me wrong, like the first layer is really cute, but the second layer just really brought it to like a whole other level, if you know what I mean. But I am curious, so let's just do a 3rd layer. Yeah, like, I feel like you don't really need 3. Yeah, you definitely only need 2. So let's deepen things up a little bit. So I'm just going to go in with the other matte next to it, and this one's called Unleash Spirit. I know this one looks a little bit lighter, but I think it's going to be a little darker when applied. I just have a feeling. Yeah, definitely is going to be a little bit darker. I'm just taking it on this pinch blending brush from ColourPop. This is an E23. It's out of the Stone Cold Fox brush set. This one isn't as pigmented right away as Trippy. Let's do a second layer. Yeah, this one's a little bit more on the buildable side. Again, it builds up to be fairly pigmented. It's just you have to do a couple layers. Man, it is blending out really nice. And also, like, this shade is blending really nice into Trippy because, again, sometimes neon greens and, like, those brighter greens, they'll kind of, like, dust off when you blend something next to it. But this one, like, the formula is just really nice. I always love a good neon green, but it's really hard to find nice formulations of them. You know, let's do a 3rd layer, just because I'm kind of curious to see what's going to happen. Yeah, like, you don't need any more than 2 with this one. So it seems like the mattes in here just need, like, 2 layers, which I don't think is bad at all. And also, I think them having a little bit more of a buildable formula is going to make them so much easier to work with. Especially if you're a beginner, or if you're not used to using really bright colors. And you know me, I like a lot of depth with my looks, so I'm going to go in with the deepest shade in the palette next. And this one's called Blackout, which is kind of a weird name for it. I know it's because of like absinthe, like, you know, blacking you out. But every time I hear or see the word blackout, I think of like a matte black. But let's just take this shade on this little tiny blending brush I have from Morphe. And this is an M507. Let's see. Ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. I like that already. It's a little, it doesn't look like it does on the pan, or in the pan on the first layer, but I'm not mad about that. Because with dark greens, they can be really tricky to use. And what I'm doing is like popping it in that crease and then doing these little circular motions to blend it upwards. But so far, I'm digging that. Let's do a second layer. I forgot to mention, but the other two matte shades other than Trippy, they are not powdery in the pan. Like, they do have like a little bit of kickback, but they're not as bad as Trippy. Like, that one kind of gets like everywhere. But again, this one, I'd say out of the three is the most buildable so far. Let's do a third layer. Oh yeah. This one definitely requires more layers if you want it to look like it does in the pan. But I also like that it does do that because it's going to give you a lot more versatility with this palette too. And if you're not used to using deeper shades, but I really like that color so far. What I'm going to do though is, because I got a little chatty, I'm going to take the brush that we applied Trippy with and then just kiss the edge. Sometimes when I get a little chatty, things go up a little higher than I expect. Yeah, like you can see, like everything's just blending out really nice. I do wish that this shade would get a little bit deeper. So we're going to go in with another layer. So I'd say if you want it to look like it does in the pan, you're looking about 4 layers. So if you don't like building up your shades, you're probably not going to like this one because of that. So I cut my crease off camera and did like this little like winged out like little flick here. I don't know, I just want to do something a little bit different. But what I'm going to do is take a little bit more of blackout and get rid of that chunky harsh line right here on the edge. And what I'm doing is just packing it on using this brush from Anastasia. It's an A3. It's like a little shader brush, but it's kind of fluffy. So it really packs on shadow well. So now let's start working on the lid, and again, we're going to be using the shimmers in here, and BH Cosmetics is normally known to have really good shimmers, so I'm hoping that these ones are bomb. But the first one I want to go in with is this like bluish green shade, and this one's called Lucid Visions. Ooh, it feels really creamy in the pan. Like, it almost has like a buttery kind of feel to it. It doesn't feel like a cream shadow, but it just has like this nice like creaminess to it. But I'm going to be taking this and putting it next to what we just applied. You know, that's applying a little bit different than I thought it was going to. It's a little bit weak, but let's go in with a second layer. Yeah, like the first layer kind of sucks, but the second layer, I mean, just look at that. Ooh, I really like that. And one thing I will note is that green matte, you can kind of see it almost looks chunky after a minute. Like, it doesn't really like pack on evenly for some reason. I don't know what is up with that. So I'm just going to try to like finesse this shimmer into it and hope that it kind of like fixes it. I'm just going to take a little bit of blackout and try to like finesse between the dark matte and then this bluish shimmer. Honestly, I wish that blackout would apply deeper than it does, or there was like a darker matte green in here, because you can kind of see like it's almost hard to blend this bluish shade into blackout just because it's not really that pigmented, and also it's not as deep as this shimmer, which kind of is a bummer. You can kind of see like they're almost like too close in tone, so it's a little bit tricky. Again, it's not terrible. I just wish that there was one that was just a little bit deeper in here. Like a little bit easier. Yeah, you can kind of see right now like that matte green. Do you see how chunky it looks? Mind you, I waited like 20 minutes after cutting my crease to apply the matte on top as well as the shimmer. I'm just saying, I am having a hard time with this eye trying to make it look good. I mean, look at how chunky and weird it is when I'm trying to blend the shimmer into the matte. You can just see it just looks like a mess. And also this shimmer, it just has so much fallout to it if you're not careful with it. Like, I'm just like pressing it down, but if I accidentally have like too much on my brush or something, it just gets everywhere. Like, you definitely have to do your eyes first, but I'll show you what I mean with the blackout shade. Like, I'm just taking it again on that brush that we used. I'm packing it down to try to like fix this chunk. But what happens is when you pack it down with this kind of brush, you have to blend out the edge because it looks chunky and weird. I mean, yeah, like you can see it's like doing this like weird situation kind of thing. And if I go in with a little bit of that shimmer to try to like get rid of the like messiness between the matte and the shimmer, you can see it like lifts off, and it's just really hard to work with. So for the rest of the lid, I'm just going to go in with the neon green shimmer in the palette, which I'm really excited for. Like, this is my favorite shade out of like the whole color story. I think it just looks so pretty. And this one's called Elixir. It almost looks a little bit glittery in the pan too. but let's see how it applies. And again, I'm applying the shimmers dry, and ooh, that is so pretty. Wow, that, oh my gosh, that is such a pretty color. And it has like that glittery, like a metallic finish to it. I wish that the other shimmers had this too. But wow. Now that shade brought this look to a whole other level. Kind of going right above the shade that we just applied to, just to kind of marry it in a little bit better. Because honestly, the Lucid Visions shade isn't as sparkly as Elixir is. So I'm trying to like make it so they kind of like match a little bit better, so it's not like bam, like glitter shimmer and then not so glittery shimmer. So I just did my complexion products off camera, and let's start working on the lower lash line, you know, just kind of tying everything together at this point. But I'm first again going to go in with that darkest matte shade, Blackout. I'm just popping this right as close as I can to where my lashes grow out. And the brush I'm using is from the Morphe Madison Beer collection. It's like a pinched little like shader brush. I need to wash brushes right now. Like I am running low. I don't know about you guys, but I hate washing brushes. So I wait till the last minute so I run out of most of my brushes. So I just have to use what I got. Now to blend this out even further, I'm just going to go in with Trippy on this ES6 from Profusion. I'm just literally running it right underneath. And then last but not least, for the inner corner highlight, we're going to go in with this like icy minty kind of color, and this one's called Another Sip. It's not another, it's like an A-N-O-T-H-A, it's kind of spelling. But I'm just going to be taking it on this little pencil brush, again from Anastasia. This is an A14. I'll be honest, this one feels a little bit harder in the pan. Not terribly though. Let's see what it looks like. Ooh! I like that. Again, it's kind of like an iridescent, like minty kind of color. And it has a lot of blue to it too. Like that just really made this look like pop. Like don't get me wrong, I love Elixir, but this just like brought it like all together. So after trying out this palette, I will say I think it's just like an okay palette. Like, I don't think it's like the best thing I've ever used, nor do I think it's like the worst. It's right smack in the middle. Because again, you really have to be willing to work with this one, especially if you want to use like this deeper matte shade in here, because again, you really have to build this one up to get it to look like it does in the pan. And it also has a tendency to kind of like over blend itself. It's really hard to like pack down and get it to look nice and even. Like this shade in here is definitely my least favorite out of all of them. And also the shimmers in here, again, they look very beautiful, but they have a ton of fallout to them. So you also have to take into consideration, if you do use the shimmers in here, that you might have to kind of like work with all the fallout and have to take more time to like, you know, get rid of it. So it's just one of those palettes, if you're willing to work with it, I think you could get some good looks with it. Again, if you're looking at this palette and you're like, man, I really want to try it, I don't think it's going to be like the worst thing to try. I just think that there's other palettes out there, and also with this kind of like shade range, I have other palettes in my collection that I do prefer, especially the Wilderness palette from Beauty Bay. If you can get your hands on this one, it is definitely worth checking out. Again, it's not identical, but you can get some very similar looks if you do get this one. And it's also a very similar price point, even though you do get more shades in this one too. Like, you see what I mean? Like, they're not identical, but you get some like similar kind of vibes with it. But I will say, like, this Trippy shade, really nice formula, very easy to use, and it just has like that really cool like neon wow factor to it. And also this Elixir shimmer shade, like, it is just so blinding and sparkly, and it has like that glittery wow factor to it. I really wish they would have had more of this type of formula with the other shimmers in here, because I think that would have really made a huge difference with this one. And even, you know, with that darker shade having a problem, if this formula was everywhere in the shimmers, just, it would have been like the coolest thing ever. And also this Another Sip shade, now this one's really cool too. Again, it isn't like glittery, but it has like that really cool like wet sheen kind of vibe to it. Let me know if I should try out more palettes from this collection, because again, like, all the color stories of the palettes are super cool and fun, and like I just feel like I need to try more. So let me know if I should, and if I should, let me know which one I should try out next, because then I'll go pick it up. But before you go though, if you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below, and also give this video a like. And if you'd like to check me out over on Instagram or TikTok, it's at Breyonna as well. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye!